When the terrorists use human shields and you try to remove that element of the innocence the best you can, but you have to take out missiles and rockets in which are aimed at your civilians.
Wait, but hold on. There were plenty of people who were unalived that were not being used as human shields. That's silly. That's silly to you're taking instances to justify the unaliving of other innocent people. I'm saying in a conflict like this, how can I, as a principled person from across the ocean, sit here and say, like, I'm definitely going to take a side on this? No, I look at both sides, taking the lives of innocent people. I see the Palestinian people who do not support Hamas; those people are being unalived. How can I support Israel?
You're just dismissing what perpetrated it.
No, no. I think what you're dismissing is that there are innocent lives being taken, and you're kind of okay with that in this idea that, like, it's for the greater good. I'm saying that no, I cannot support anybody who makes the decision to unalive innocent people. I cannot support that. I won't support that.
One side, you absolutely know for a fact, did that on purpose, right?
What do you think? You think the retaliation was on accident? You think they just didn't know where anything was? You think there was no intel? Like, they have an Iron Dome, but they don't have the intel to figure out where they're bombing?
Of course they do.
Okay, well then you can't tell me that it wasn't on purpose. This essentially is the game of who's.
You can't tell me that, you cannot tell me that they did it intentionally to harm civilians.
They knew the outcome.
Well, if you have to defend your civilians from rocket attacks, and the terrorists use human shields,
you have an iron dome. You have an Iron Dome. You're impenetrable. You're 10 times the size.
How did the Iron Dome stop the 250 people who were killed at a concert?
It didn't. But I look, and again, I'm not an expert, but I'm smart enough to know I watch videos of missile after missile after missile being deflected by the Iron Dome. It seemed to give quite a bit of protection.
Well,
meanwhile, the Palestinians have hold on. Meanwhile, the Palestinians have their back against the ocean. They have nowhere to go. I think it is perfectly okay for me to criticize Israel and say that the response by Israel is also bad. I don't understand why I have to pick a side here.
Okay, I put it like this: if you don't pick a side, then you're giving leniency to the terrorists. Or you have to at least pick a side to say I'm against.
What's the difference between innocent lives being taken because you're a terrorist and innocent lives being taken because you're the state? What is the moral difference?
It's a huge moral difference.
What's the difference?
Because they wouldn't be defending themselves, and other people wouldn't be unalived if it hadn't been for the terrorist attack.
Okay, so you're saying that you're morally justified to take innocent lives as long as innocent lives were taken against your people first.
I'm not saying that.
Well, then what are you saying?
It's what happens in war. It gets ugly. Nobody likes it, but it's a fact.
Yeah, that's what I just said. That's what I said. That's exactly what I just said. Like, you're okay with it, as I said that from the beginning. You're okay with it as it's just part of war. I do not understand why as Americans, I cannot for the life of me, nobody has ever given me any sort of argument that I could buy into that says I support Israel, I stand with Israel, or I stand with Hamas, or I stand with Palestine. Like, outside of like the innocent Palestinians, those who do not support Hamas, like who in this is at fault? Hamas and the state of Israel, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't understand how I'm supposed to take a side here.
Well, I guess we just see things a bit different.
I get that. That's fine, but this is the thing that I don't like about this conversation is when you say we see things different, I'm saying both of these sides are horrific and are unaliving innocent people, and you're saying not that they're not doing that, but you're saying that it's justified. That's the difference between our opinion, really.
I will say wholeheartedly that Israel has a right to defend its civilians from terrorist attack. That's a fact.
Yeah, I think that's where you have the disagreement. But again, not an expert. I'll go back to mute. But go ahead. Welcome, Coney.
One more thing about the state of living conditions there in Gaza, even separate from all of this, what's happening. 2/3 of the women there report forms of physical abuse, mental abuse. The amount of children that are given in marriage under the age of 15, and you can go look this up on UNICEF website. It's well documented. They have a lot of work to do aside from these other situations that go on with Israel within their own community there. And I'll leave it at that.
I think Coning's back, or Anthony, if you want to respond to that.
Yeah, so I think the difficulty in the sides argument is twofold, and there's someone in the comments that said something, and I can't remember the user's name, but I agree with the one comment that caught my eye, in that sometimes, and I'm paraphrasing, so if I get this wrong, comment or don't come at me. Sometimes there's a conflation about sides, right? There are two parties that are currently killing innocent people. It's true that in war, innocent people get killed. That doesn't mean it's a good idea or that it should happen. And I don't think that Hamas is one side and the state of Israel is another side. I think there are multiple sides to this, and that two of the parties are the Israeli government responding to the attacks on Israeli citizens and Hamas's mission. And then we got some toes. And Hamas's mission. Like that literally just caught the bottom of my eye, and I need eye bleach now. And then there is Hamas and their belief system in which all of my people should be wiped off the face of the earth. Now, there is also the United States. There is also Syria, there is also Lebanon, there is also Iran, there is also Saudi Arabia. We are all parties to this unfortunate situation. And again, it really is difficult for me to not be biased, but I acknowledge that as a Jew, that difficulty, and I try not to let my bias get in the way of having a logic discussion, because that's what I see this as, is that if I can keep my emotions out of this, if I can keep my anger at bay, I can have a discussion with people who have varying and differing points of view from mine for whatever reason. And I acknowledge that those are their positions, and I'm okay with them having their positions. What I'm not okay with, however, is having terms dictated, right? So I hope we can refrain from statements like you have to pick a side or there's two sides, or because the fact of the matter is there's never been a war with just two sides. It doesn't exist. And to say so is quite intellectually dishonest. And I get it, right? Because from an emotional viewpoint, it's easier to boil it down to sides. But there are no sides here. There are active participants and active parties that have been directly or indirectly participating, and the culmination of that participation is what we had. And I'm not going to be intellectually dishonest as a Jew and not acknowledge that bad shit has happened, and that the loss of life of my people is fucking horrible, as to is what has happened to the people that live in Gaza and in the West Bank, although Gaza much worse, right? I guess the hardest thing for me to come to grips with is that there may not be a solution. And that is heart-wrenching and heartbreaking. Because, again, as I said in the very fucking beginning of this conversation, oh, there's an F-bomb. Shit, sorry. Koenig, now you're going to get banned again because I dropped an F-bomb.
Yeah, Jake's on his way out for that one.
we are all one people, right? And we need to acknowledge that, and to allow simply religion as a way to have our own defining character, I think needs to stop too. Far too many people have been unalived in the name of X. And I really would like to see an end to that. I really would like to have a seat at the table, although I'm not qualified to. But in the absence of smart people like Jimmy Carter, I think it's incumbent upon myself to extend a branch of understanding and to extend invitation to criticism. People are more than welcome to pop in the box and criticize what I'm saying. You can't insult me. You can't poke the bear, even though I'm shaped like one. It's okay to have differing points of view. And I think one of the good things is that this particular platform and others have really allowed people to find a voice. Doesn't mean I agree with all those voices, but, here we are. And by the way, just so you know, this boomer had to go to tethered headphones because the Samsung earbuds battery had died. And also because I'm fucking fat and lazy, I got myself a tripod and put it on the coffee table in front of me so I don't have to hold the phone. So there you go. And I'm not a boomer, but I like to insult myself. So there you go.
There's a lot of comments going right now asking for a pro-Palestine voice in the box. I think I would identify as pro-Palestine. I would also identify as pro-Israel. Writing the fence in this situation is very different than writing the fence in other conflicts. It's not like being on the side of Russia or Ukraine. It's not on the side of being... Who
was that made that comment?
There's a lot of people here.
Fuck Hamas. Come up in the box.
I can hop off. Thanks, RTP and Anthony.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Appreciate
you, Michael. Thank you. And come on, fuck Hamas. You're the one whose comment I appreciated. Come up, please. There you are. I don't even know who you are.
Fuck Hamas.
Yep. Hello.
I think every one of us up here have said fuck Hamas.
I'll be back in a second. I got to pee.
Oh, no. Oh, well, hello.
Hey.
Hello.
Oh, darn it. Finally get to talk to RTP, and he's out, grading. In any case. No, my whole viewpoint here is that the whole situation's messy. I completely agree with you, Anthony. In regards to just about 99% of what you said. The only thing I would do is take it a little bit more sternly and, in the fact that I don't think we're going to be removing religion from the equation. I don't believe that that's a possibility. That's an ideal. It's 100,000% not going to happen in that region. It's not going to happen in any meaningful, urgent, imminent way that'll help get us out of this situation. What needs to happen here at this point, we need to be pragmatic about. There's gonna be a ground offensive. They need to go physically into Gaza City and into Gaza, temporarily occupy it because they're going to need to take out Hamas and its infrastructure. and they're going to need to have some kind of referendum for the Palestinian people to re-elect a new government. That is the reality of what is going to occur. People may not like it,
that?
but that is what is going to occur.
Well, I'd ask you, who does that?
It'll be kind of a read of what we saw in Afghanistan, where America went.
When we got rid of Al Qaeda and then got rid of ISIS, right? We did both of those things.
Well, we didn't, but we really there's no other way out. There's going to have to be a lot of lessons learned.
When has any country, any of the major powers gone into a occupied a state and it helped with democracy and gotten rid of terrorist organizations? When has that ever happened?
Never.
Oh, never. But there's literally no alternative at this point. You can't do a half measure here and kill.
If you're talking about getting rid of Hamas, you're not just talking about what's in the Gaza Strip. You're not just talking about what's in the West Bank. You're talking about it. You're talking about getting into another conflict with Iran. You're talking about getting into
Lebanon,
a conflict with Iraq, Lebanon. I mean, the list of countries goes on and on. You're talking about something that's not the solution. Going in and getting rid of terrorist organizations has never been an American strong point. In fact, I think we're 0 for 10 in that status. We've never done it. We've never been able to. The U.S. particularly is actually really bad at it. In fact, we're really good at creating terrorist organizations.
Can you name a country on the planet of Earth that is? I mean, can you name any?
And that's what I'm saying. Why would you? Then why would that even be a viable solution? Why would that say we need to go and occupy the ground in Gaza and get rid of Hamas? What you're saying is, again, fuck Hamas, but what you're saying is we need to go in and we need to kill a bunch of 17-year-olds. That's what you're telling me.
No. What I am saying is you go in.
Who is Hamas then? Who is Hamas? Tell me who Hamas is.
Physically to the strongholds, street by street.
Who is Hamas?
Well, the Hamas is who they've got identified as
who is Hamas? I want you to tell me the demographic of Hamas because I already know it.
Well, hell, it's going to be the demographic of Palestine and the folks in Gaza, which skew extremely young. That's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
So again, what you're saying is it's unfortunate, but it's okay that we go in and we completely
there's a
eliminate
reality
a bunch
there.
Of 16 and 17-year-olds.
Well, it was 16 and 17-year-olds that were there in Israel on October the 7th. Are you going to give them a free pass? If 16 and 17-year-olds marched from the border of Indiana to Kentucky and marched into people's homes, drug them out, put them on a motorcycle, drove them into a cave and held them there
your
for
allegory,
weeks,
your allegory
would they be charged as an adult?
It's not going to happen.
These are so far removed from what you can perceive as, singularly, that it's a whole different ballgame and different world.
You are so on one side that you don't even realize how genocidal you sound. That's the problem, and that's the problem with the left. That's the problem with the right. That's the problem with both sides. This is the problem with both sides. This is the problem with taking a side. We can all say fuck Hamas. We all agree fuck Hamas because that's a bunch of old guys in Qatar pulling the strings on a bunch of 16 and 17-year-olds in an occupied territory. We can say that. I can get behind you 100% on that, but I cannot get behind you in saying, hey, we as a power, let's continue to support a conflict. Let's continue to encourage a conflict by occupying that place and going after 16 and 17-year-old men and women, children. We're going to be going after them. We're going to be eliminating them from the face of the earth. That's what we're saying. We're saying at this point they've made their choice. Fuck them. That is not the way the solution works.
I'm not saying very specifically go run and target, minors.
You're saying target the strongholds.
No,
who do you think is occupying the strongholds in the Gaza Strip?
No, I'm saying go target Hamas. I'm saying go target people who are coming at you with rocket launchers.
Yeah, can I ask a couple? Let me ask a couple of questions. One, and I got to stop saying this because this is not your name. Just for clarification purposes, because I don't want to just keep saying fuck Hamas when I'm talking to you.
Okay, right? My name's Andy.
Andy, thank you, Andy. Now, second question.
Nice to meet you, Andy.
Very good to meet you. Thank you. Are you a member of the tribe? And I only ask just for my understanding.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I only do that. I'm just an ally.
Okay. All right. So here's kind of the thing that I want you to, as best you can, hear what I'm saying, and I'm not adding you. I'm not coming at you, right? One, I moved far too fucking slow. So if you couldn't move out of my way, it'd be like being run over by a Zamboni.
It kind of comes at you like a slow drip. It's just very slow.
Yeah, with great fucking hair. Here's the thing. When I hear people say, just root out Hamas, or just do this to this people, or just do that to that people, I need you to understand what that does to somebody like me who's been in the military and who is a Jew. Because that thing that you're saying, that thing that you're hinting at is what happened to us. And so we got to be very careful about thinking we can so easily identify strongholds or members of Hamas. There is a reason why the IDF hasn't gone in for full bore, because they know too that this is a fucking hornet's nest, and this is not something they can just simply root out. It's not like Roto-Rooter coming and taking fucking vines out of your plumbing or unclogging a toilet. This is a very damn near impossible John Wick style task that he's not going to complete either. I don't know who Hamas is or what they look like. I know what they stand for, and I know what their actions have been. But I'm pretty fucking sure that I couldn't stand in the street and point at somebody and claim to know that that's what they are. So let's be very careful about talking around how do we identify people. I'm sure that Mossad has intelligence on certain leaders, but that's not the entirety of Gaza, right? And
absolutely not. And I wouldn't say so. And that's more what I'm leaning towards is, when I say an occupation or go in or put in a ground offensive, I'm talking about going into those strongholds of the leadership of Hamas that Mossad knows of, but that they can't get to with easy aerial bombardment because
you can't
kill somebody.
So here's what the United States
again.
Just real quick.
Go ahead, Anthony. Sorry.
Okay. Here's what the United States military has learned about going into neighborhoods and fighting a fucking war. Don't do it, because you can't. It's unsuccessful. Now, we have tried knocking down doors in 2 different countries, and I had to participate in escorting too many fucking bodies back home. You can't just go into an urban area and kick doors down without putting an incredibly large amount of boots on the ground. It is unsafe. Too many innocent people are going to die, and that's not how we need to fix this problem.
I 100% agree.
I'm going to add to what Anthony said. Give me 1 second here. When I ask you who Hamas is, you have this idea in your head that we're going to go into the Gaza Strip, we're going to go into the West Bank, and we're going to find these hornets' nests, we're going to find these fortresses, and we're going to find Hamas leadership. That's what the idea, and that's what you're visualizing. That we're going to go knock down doors. We're going to get rid of the leadership. The leadership is not there. They're not there. There are a bunch of old guys sitting in other countries. There are a bunch of old guys sitting in Qatar. There are a bunch of old guys sitting in Saudi Arabia. There are a bunch of old guys sitting in Iraq and Iran. That's where this is. You don't understand that Hamas, the people that are there, the children that are there.
I may paraphrase that, and maybe I'm looking more for the middle management or their bread and butter, their top lieutenants.
Maybe Andy's saying we could page them and see if we could get them to swing by. Yeah. Maybe that's what Andy was saying.
Hey, earnestly,
that's genuinely not the case, and that's what I'm trying to express here. That's what I'm trying to express to a lot of the chat here. There's a lot of people that aren't understanding what being pro-Palestine or what being pro-Israel is at this point. I am not pro-IDF. I am not pro-Hamas. I am not. I am pro-Palestine. I would love I have preached this multiple times that a two-state solution was the most viable chance at this region. I have also preached that at this point, that so much occupation with the backing of large superpowers in the world has allowed Israel to take over so much of what once could have been called Palestine. There's a reason that I asked you to Google Palestine on Google Maps. Go ahead and do it. It takes you to a region, but it doesn't. Palestine is not a state.
It's never been a state, in the most traditional sense. Yeah. It's
not the past. It's not like the past. It's over. No. This was as recent as 1967 that we had peace talks where we had both sides at the table discussing and very, 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 very highly considering a two-state solution. This is not all the way back in 1948 that was the last time it was talked about. There have been opportunities over and over and over and over and over.
No, I agree. I'm 100% aware of those different offerings, and I'm still for a two-state solution. I agree. I think that's the best way to get out of the situation.
It would have been. Would have been at this point, unless every nation comes together that is pro-Israel, unless every pro-Israel country, specifically, and I say pro-Israel country, comes together and tells Israel, we are going to do this and you're just going to have to deal with it or you're not going to get any support from us again. That's the only way that a two-state solution is going to happen at this point.
No,
what I'm telling you is it will not.
What is your current fear? Is that Israel is just literally going to take all of the land forever?
No, it's not a fear. There's no fear here. That's not what this is from my side.
That's not a reality that's going to occur. There's no reality here where they are taking Palestine. There is no permanent.
Where is Palestine? Show me Palestine on a map, please.
Israel is not going in. Israel doesn't want Gaza. They don't want.
What are you talking about? They have absolutely 100% occupied all but a very small percentage. If you look at the original
strip we're talking about, they have no interest.
Look at the original. Of course, because it's been an open air prison. What better place to keep people and then just block them over in borders and block 2 million people
beyond
in the size of the Salt Lake Valley.
Or insinuating there, the situation at hand is they are not trying to go in and be like, I really want this strip of land. I'm going to sacrifice everything I've got in our standing in the world.
That's what they said 30 years ago. That's what they said 30 years ago when they pushed in more occupation.
They would have sacrificed their relationship.
That's what happened when it was 60 years ago.
And go to complete war with every Arab nation and every neighboring country and complete annihilation over 30
They're
square
already in
miles.
conflict with Lebanon again. What are you talking about? It's already happening. It's
They've had war with Lebanon and Syria.
And it's getting worse. And U.S. support is bolstering. And U.S. support is bolstering at this point. We have continued to pound our chest, and we show this. If Israel did not have the backing
to step over the line,
we have occupied and continue to press and continue to take land from what could have been the Arab state of Palestine. From those people, we have occupied and slowly put them into the tiniest land spaces possible. Look at the history. Look at the original lines. Look at where Israel originally was. Look at where it is now. Look at occupied territory by Israel from 1948 to now. And you cannot sit there on where you're sitting and tell me that Israel has not slowly occupied all Palestinian land. They have done it. They will continue to do that. So they will continue to until that entire area is Israel. And they will go to war with Lebanon. They will go to war with Syria. They will go to war with all the surrounding countries because guess who backs them up? The most powerful nations in the world. We sell more military equipment to Israel than almost any developed nation in the world. Do you realize do you realize who has the second most F-16s in the world next to the United States? Go ahead. I'm sure you can guess. Guess who has the second most F-35s? Go ahead. I'll let you guess that one too. Crazy how they get those from the biggest military in the world. It's amazing how we continue to sell there on a conflict. It's amazing how the United States continues to bolster and profit off of conflict. It's amazing how 32 developed countries have their hands in this. What I'm telling you, and this is just a fact that not enough people are realizing at this point, the Zionist movement worked. It 100% worked. They are going to take over the region. It is going to be the end of what we knew as the Palestinian people. They are going to evacuate them. They're going to slowly get them out of there. They're going to do it in the name of destroying Hamas. They're going to.
Can you define for me what the Zionist movement is and why you're against it?
Why I'm against the Zionist movement?
No,
because the Zionist
definition of what the Zionist movement is.
The original Zionist movement was returning the land that was promised to Abraham, and his children. That's what the original Zionist movement was about. The original Zionist movement was Jews returning to their homeland. In 1948, we granted that. We did that just absolutely with a swift of the pen. We said, "Here's Israel, right there, boom, done." There were millions of displaced Jews from the worst atrocity that they've ever experienced in the history of their people. Right there, millions just displaced. And we said, here's your home, here you go. Now, we did so knowing that we were putting them in a conflict zone. Don't tell me that we didn't know that. We knew that because the day before we declared that state, the day before, there was a massacre of Jewish people. There was 129 Jewish people that were unalived the day before we declared Israel a state. So you cannot tell me that this country wasn't born of conflict and continue to be in conflict. You cannot tell me that Israel is not slowly occupied Palestine and what the Arab states should have been declared as. They have slowly occupied all of that area. It has happened. It is 100% happening. It is going to continue to happen until Israel is the only occupation in that territory. And they're just going to continue to fight Lebanon. They're going to continue to fight Syria. They're going to do so with the backing of the United States and the other superpowers of the world. That's what's going to happen. That is why it's such an atrocity. That is why taking the side of Israel or taking the side of Palestine is not a solution. This is a situation to where you cannot take a side because you're either siding with the IDF or you're either siding with Hamas at this point. That's what you're saying when you're saying, hey, we need to pick a side and go eradicate the other. That's what's happening.
Not, and then don't put words in my mouth. I am saying...
Who is Hamas? I've asked you this multiple times. Who is Hamas?
And I have told you that is up to Mossad. That is up to IDF. That is up to Israel and who they are identifying in their intelligence. And Hamas are human beings that are committing acts of terror. As far as literally identifying names, rank and file, they're going to be people who are throwing, rockets across borders. They're going to be the ones ordering people to throw rockets across borders. As far as who those specific people are, go ask someone in Mossad. As far as how we find and remove those people and remove their capacity to do such horrible acts, that's going to fall on largely Mossad, and how they decide to do that and how they do their special operations. How they get that access to execute those special operations, physically being in proximity to be able to do that. That's where it comes out to being able to get on the ground. You can't magically be 100 miles away, wave a wand, and make your enemy go away. So if you have a solution to make Hamas magically blink out of existence so that it doesn't have repeated incidences of October the 7th, I'm open ears. You give me a solution, and I would love to hear it. What's your solution?
You can't at this point.
What's your solution?
You can't at this point. You can't.
What's your solution to the removal of Hamas?
I just absolutely told you that you can't.
How?
I told you that you can't. You cannot. CANNOT. You can't.
So you just live with it. You just live with Hamas, and you just have repeated October 7th.
The scales have tipped so far that this is the reality of the situation. It's an unfortunate reality.
So just the reality is just let the Jews of Israel just, what? We're just going to have repeated, scores of break-ins. They're going to come into your homes and your neighborhoods. They'll sling 85-year-olds on motorcycles and run them off underground into caves. Every other weekend we'll just make a thing of it. We'll put a disco ball up and invite Hamas.
This is not a defeatist. This is not a defeatist movement.
We'll turn this into the village like M. Night Shyamalan, and we'll hold campfires. That is insanity. That is like saying after 9/11, we're just going to have an Al Qaeda.
What are you talking about? 9/11? I wouldn't even bring up 9/11 on this one. So that's a completely different situation.
You're basically your response to me is 9/11 happened. It'll just keep happening. So
no.
When I ask you what your solution is, what your alternative, what your strategy would be to resolving the issue at hand is, you say you can't.
I told you.
If you want to criticize things,
I told you what the strategy was. I did come to a solution. I said NATO should get together every. I said every solution. I gave you a solution. I gave you a solution.
No, you didn't give me a solution. You just said you can't.
No, I specifically said that you cannot go in and you cannot eliminate Hamas. You cannot do that.
How do we remove Hamas?
What you do is you bring NATO together, you bring every developed country that's supporting this war, and you make Israel give concessions. You declare a Palestinian state, and you give that state as it's supposed to be. That's what happens. That's the only way that you help grow a people. That's the only way that you help repair a people. That's the only way that happens. If you just say the only solution is to go in and fight, that's all we can do. We can just go in, we can just kill Hamas, kill Hamas. That's all we can do.
Massacre,
so the fuck what, man? Look at what happened in 1948. 129.
That is literally equatable to after 9/11.
That is exactly where I was getting at. That's exactly where I was getting at. That's exactly where I was getting at. That is the truth right there. You cannot understand. You cannot understand where Israel has faults. You cannot understand where Israel has faults. Since 1948, Israel has come to occupy.
Hey, hold on real quick. Hold on real quick.
What are you talking about?
We're kind of talking past each other real quick. So I'm gonna add a little buffer here. I'm gonna let Anthony go while we see if maybe we can find some middle ground here. Anthony?
Yeah, so just a couple of things, and that's why I was given the timeout signal. I want us just to step back for a second. Andy, please don't feel like I'm attacking you, and I know I'll give a lot of caveats, but I'm fucking old, is what we do.
Oh, you're fine, and I appreciate it.
Just try, if you can for me, please, to remove the emotional aspects at least out of your voice, right? It's not that it's triggering or that it's difficult for me, but I want to yell at you when you do that, like a teacher would yell at a student. This is a discussion, and I get that you want to be an ally, right? But part of being an ally is being an active listener. Now, you may not like the answers you've been given, but you have been given answers. And again, I want to warn against this. It is absolutely impossible to get rid of Hamas. It is an idea that will live as much as the schmatzies idea lives. These are things that don't go away. They may hide for a while. They may reduce in numbers for a while. But if one thing is true, history's a motherfucker, and she repeats herself as soon as we forget, right? So, one, I understand what you're saying. I really do. I get it. And for the people who keep making comments about how we need somebody who's pro-Palestinian in the box. I'm not anti-Palestinian or against Palestinians or against Palestinian people having their own state. I'm actually all for it. What I'm not for is, again, just to be perfectly clear, is the killing of any innocent people in any situation. It's offensive to me as a humanist, right? I just don't believe in it. And you can be pro-Palestinian and you can be a Jew. It is possible to walk and chew gum at the same time. I'm going to shut up because I see Kimberly has arrived. So hopefully I've diffused and everybody's able to take a breath. And Kimberly, I will shut up because you're up here now, and I will just go back on mute.
Yeah. Hi. I think it's harmful to compare Hamas ideology to Yahtzee ideology because it just doesn't take into account as to why Hamas exists in the first place. Hamas was created in the 1987 First Intifada as a direct reaction to the Israeli occupation, right? It was initially a resistance form and it was a reaction to what Israelis were doing in the West Bank, in Gaza, in Palestine in general. So to compare that to Yahtzee ideology, I think is just not analogous. It's not equivalent because the Yahtzee ideology was a majority ideology that decided to dehumanize and stigmatize whole groups of marginalized communities and use that systemic power to eradicate millions of people.
Yeah.
With regard to Hamas, though, they don't necessarily have much power to actually even implement their ideologies, and they are also a reaction. When I'm saying this, I do
Kimberly, are
not
you saying that
condone
Hamas
the
is
unaliving. Wait,
freedom
can I
fighters?
just finish? One second, can I just finish? When I'm saying this, I in no way condone what happened on October the 7th. I in no way condone the unaliving of innocent Israeli citizens as well. That's not why I'm saying this. I think we need to understand, though, that Hamas doesn't exist within a vacuum, and we need to stop centering Hamas in this conversation, because even if we got rid of Hamas and decided to bomb Hamas out of Gaza the same way the American military tried to bomb democracy into Iraq, another group will fill in that void and will take over, because the root cause of the existence of Hamas is the occupation.
And
Yeah.
Andy, and Anthony, actually, I really need to address this because it's integral.
Well, give me 1 second, because I need to apologize. Kimberly, thank you for the call out. I wasn't, so in the example that I used was that you can't just go in and remove a people, because the idea that Hamas continues out of the struggle in which it arose, because you are correct 100%, and I've heard you share this before, so I appreciate your perspective. I wasn't trying to compare the two. I was just simply saying that ideas don't go away, and you're right, it's not in a vacuum, and if we take one group out, there will be another group to replace it. So I just wanted to say I've heard you several times on several lives, and I've appreciated your point of view. I've not been able to say that to you, so thank you. Andy, I'm so sorry. I promise I'm going to go on mute now. I promise. Sorry.
I appreciate you, Anthony.
You're fine. And while I am a big advocate of knowing history, and I 100% acknowledge I don't know 7% of what I need to on the topic. In general, what I do know is that largely in our current state of affairs was initiated, October 7th. I know that largely this large-scale issue was kickstarted off on October the 7th. This is a long-standing, hundreds of 75-year struggle culminating in this, but the fire starter was October the 7th. Now, I understand, Kimberly, your need to explain that the origin story of Hamas was one of freedom fighting and resistance and, vive la France or vive la Palestine, be whatever its well-intended origin may be. Even if it came from a source of this is free the people, it has ended up in a state of they went into neighborhoods and they unalived people, and they unalived children, and they unalived babies on October the 7th. So I don't care how well and how good your intention was when you were founded, what you did and who you are now is completely unacceptable in human society. And that's why I understand the IDF's response, Israel's response, and the actions they've taken, and the severity in which they are responding. So I hate this argument, and I see it used time and time again in these conversations of Hamas was essential, and this is just a natural, okay reaction, and let's basically airbrush over the existence of Hamas and excuse October the 7th because it was, inevitable. And I want to not brush over the events of that day, because I think that's an atrocious thing to do. I think that's disrespectful to all the victims of that day and the victims of Israel. When you have that and really want to center a conversation based around, protecting the sanctity and origin and creation of Hamas. I also think that does a disservice to the people of Palestine who largely don't support them, at least from what I've heard.
So I think I think what does a disservice as well is pretending as if the fires started burning on October the 7th when the fires have been burning since 1948. I think we have to understand you are addressing what Hamas has done, but we are forgetting the fact that, for example, in Tantura in 1948, which is a seaside village, you had IDF soldiers unaliving, massacring the seaside village. They expelled the people of Tantura and they built 2 beach resorts on Tantura. And then they built a parking lot on a mass grave of Tantura villagers. That is only one massacre in a whole list of massacres that have happened since 1948, since the Nakba, where 700,000 Palestinian people were expelled from their lands and live as refugees until today. Their descendants live as refugees until today, right? So to pretend as if the fire just started on October the 7th, just because there was some type of peace, is, I think, ahistorical, because the existence of peace does not mean the existence of liberation. Negative peace can also exist. And Palestinian people don't only want peace, they actually want justice and equality. And this is something that is recognized by B'Tselem, which is an Israeli human rights organization that actively deems the Israeli state as an apartheid state. And not only the B'Tselem, which is an Israeli human rights organization, but you also have Breaking the Silence, which is an organization of former Israeli IDF soldiers and military who are veterans today, and they created a whole organization called Breaking the Silence, discussing the atrocities that were committed by the IDF. You have instances where the IDF literally unalived toddlers, like the toddler that was unalived, the 2-year-old toddler who was unalive this year in June when he was in a car with his father, who was a cook, trying to drive to his uncle, and he was unalived in Ramallah. In the West Bank, you keep bringing up Hamas. Hamas doesn't have power in the West Bank, and yet since October the 7th, 75 people were unalived in the West Bank by Israeli settlers and IDF soldiers as well. There was the incident.
So I'm going to interject because you've been going on for quite a while here, and I love the.
Can I finish what I was trying to say? Yeah. Can I just finish what I was trying to say? Right?
Yeah, don't do that, please. Everybody's been real respectful. You've had plenty of monologues yourself, so I'm sorry that you were bored with what Athena was saying, but maybe just listen and then respond to what she has to say.
The Times of Israel posted an article on October the 20th, and that article is called "IDF Settlers Allegedly Bind, Strip, Beat, Burn, Urinate on 3 Palestinians in the West Bank," and it talks about IDF soldiers who captured 3 Palestinians in the West Bank after October the 7th, on October the 12th, where they spent hours torturing them, urinating on them, and they even tried to sodomize one of the Palestinians. This is not something that is being addressed, and the atrocities of the IDF is not being addressed as well. Proof is betselem.org. Oh, am I breaking up? Sorry, it might be my Wi-Fi. Can y'all hear me?
You're good. You're good on my end.
I think it might be somebody else breaking up.
Okay, sorry, I'm back.
I can hear you. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the people who are asking me for the proof, the Times of Israel has written about this, and also B'Tselem, which is an Israeli human rights organization, has also posted about the 3 Palestinian people who were tortured on October the 12th, and including the 75 Palestinian people who are unalived, some of them in Nur al-Shams refugee camp in the West Bank. The issue that I have here is we're criticizing Hamas for collectively punishing Israeli citizens for the actions of the Israeli state, but then in the same breath, we're justifying the IDF for collectively punishing people in Gaza for the actions of Hamas, which again, 50% of Gaza are minors. They weren't even able to vote for Hamas in 2005. And collective punishment is a war crime according to the Geneva Convention as well. So it's very inconsistent, I think.
So
I would also like to add to what Athena was just saying as well, just to give you a quick 30-second breakdown. The Six-Day War resulted in 19,000 Arab deaths, less than 1,000 Israeli deaths. You also go back to 2005, where you saw 3,225 Palestinians killed by Israelis. And then you also look at this conflict. As of right now, 5,700 Palestinians have been killed in the war, including some 2,300 minors. 2,300 of the 5,700 Palestinians killed in the current conflict, as we sit right now, have been minors. So go ahead. You can rebuke against Kimberly all you want. I'm waiting for it.
Okay, no, I'm not even going to attempt to rebuke anything that she has said. I'm certain the facts are solid. What I would, leverage against that, or not even necessarily against, but what I would say in response is that I don't believe that this is collective punishment. I believe that this is a response militarily. They have given attempts in Gaza City, and said, evacuate, go here, there's aid. They've attempted to do so swiftly. It may not be convenient. I would imagine war many times is not. Do I think there's any kind of invisible shield or magical barrier that prevents any form of Hamas or anti-Israel intended, terrorist group or cell from existing in the West Bank? I don't think that exists. So to, have a belief that they're hitting, people for fun in the West Bank, I think is just disingenuous. I think that Mossad or the IDF is actively hitting real threats in the West Bank? Yes. What is your reasoning for thinking they're just attacking people willy-nilly in the West Bank? I'd like to know that. You didn't hear what she said. I'm sorry?
You did not listen to what she said about the West Bank. You did not listen to the words that came out of her mouth about the deaths in the West Bank.
How's that?
Which were in refugee camps, by the way. Part of them were in refugee camps, like Nur al-Shams refugee camp. And Hamas doesn't have a stronghold in the West Bank, so that cannot be used as an excuse either.
Well, they may not have a stronghold. They may not be an elected form of government, but to think that they don't have a representation there is what I'm saying. And that they're not operating.
No, they don't have a stronghold at all. They don't have a stronghold at all. But also, can you tell me who Ben Gvir is?
I want to know your military intelligence that you have that Israel does not have access to.
This is out of Israel. This is directly from Israel.
I just don't know why we're so unwilling to give the IDF a benefit of a doubt that they're having a legitimate military response.
Can you tell me who Itamar Ben Gvir is?
Please tell me.
Do you know who Itamar Ben Gvir is?
No, that's why I said please tell me.
He's the current Minister of National Security who subscribes to the Kahina movement of the 1980s. Kahina was a man who believed that Palestinians didn't deserve to exist and wanted to eradicate all Palestinians. Ben Gvir is very much pro-settlement in the West Bank, and he's the Minister of National Security, a part of the current Netanyahu administration, who himself has said that the IDF and the Israeli state should stomp out every single Palestinian. And he doesn't even believe Palestinians exist. He only considers them to be Arab. And Palestinians are not Arab. They're Arabized, which there's a difference between the two. But he has actively dismissed the existence of the Palestinian people, and he has even flat out said he wants them fully eradicated. His name is Ben Gvir, the current Minister of National Security. You also had Netanyahu, who released a tweet and deleted it after he was criticized, saying that Palestinian people were the children of the darkness. So you had the Minister of Justice who referred to Palestinian people. Hold on. You had the Minister of Justice who referred to Palestinian people as human animals. So there are multiple politicians within the current Netanyahu administration, which is the most right-wing administration that Israel has ever had until now, that Israelis themselves were protesting against the administration a couple of months ago, right? Many people within the Netanyahu administration have flat out not only used disgusting, dehumanizing rhetoric about Palestinian people, but have flat out said they want to eradicate Palestinian people.
Real quick, Andy, just to give you asked if that was a direct quote. The tweet read, "This is a struggle between the children of light and the children of darkness, between humanity and the law of the jungle." So yeah, direct quote.
Okay, well, I mean that itself is there's some context there. I mean that can be interpreted a couple of different ways, and
Jesus
I'd have
Christ,
to.
No.
is your like is that the goal? Is that the goal every time to like try and find some moral wiggle room? Like that could not be more clear.
Well, no, I'm saying I don't know. I would need more context.
Who
I'm
are the
just not
children?
trying to make
Who
a
are the?
quick
Okay,
condemnation.
explain me the context where Netanyahu is saying this is the struggle between the children of light and the children of darkness. Explain to me the context where that's not horrific.
He's a politician saying this
Shut
is a
that!
struggle
No,
between
stop.
the forces
Explain
of good
to
and
me.
evil.
No, don't tell me he's a politician. Don't weasel your way out. Politicians can be horrific. Please explain to me. Put the spin on that where that's not a horrific thing to say.
Politicians themselves are weasels.
Oh my God! I just told you not to say that. Being a politician is not an excuse to say awful things. More importantly, just because they're a politician, I don't know why you would even try and defend this. Why are you unable to say that's horrific?
I can
Don't know
say
the
it.
context, the greater context of what he was saying before or after that.
It was
Andy?
no. There was no before and after. That was the tweet.
Andy, it's really important when it comes to, again, I'm going to put my school teacher hat on. It's really important when Athena, and damn it, I didn't know that was your name, and I'm so sorry, and now I know who you are, and I feel like a big fucking boomer idiot. Anyway, love your
okay.
talk. When it comes to how the Knesset is formed and how it's been formed under Netanyahu, under Bibi, it's important to understand how these puzzle pieces have been assembled and why these puzzle pieces have been assembled. The foreign minister to which Athena just referred to is an occupier of the West Bank, meaning he was a part of a settler movement that went into what was supposed to be non-occupied territory and occupied it for the reasons that Athena told you. So in the context of the type of person that he is and the public statements he has been making since 2017, so these are not new, it doesn't matter that he's a politician. As a person, as a Jew, I am telling you, we have assholes too. And it doesn't matter that they're politicians, right? What matters is that a Jew said these things in Israel with the backdrop of knowing that as a people, he literally is now advocating for the exact same fucking thing that his entire family went through. This is the unfucking just irritating irony that continues to this day within certain circles of Israel allies, supporters, and fucking boy fans of Bibi, who will never be his fucking brother, who will never be a real fucking hero, and who'll never actually be the true leader of the Jewish people, although he likes to think that he is. He's the leader of the Israeli government. He doesn't represent all Jews. And the minister that was mentioned certainly does not represent me, does not represent my family, does not represent what we believe in. It is really fucking atrocious that things like this get said by our people. It's embarrassing. It's really hard to deal with. And fucking frankly, it puts another target on our back, and we don't need another target on our back. These types of comments are fucking excusable and inhumane. When you start to remove the humanity of a people, you have gone too fucking far, and it needs to stop. This is not a hill you want to die on. Please let this go, right? And we can bring up another topic, but this one in particular, I'm asking you kindly to not make another comment on, because there is no.
I will see the point. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, I agree
Appreciate
with the
that.
context, and yeah, I would agree with you. Yeah, I have that context now. I know a little bit more, and I'll agree with you. That would be horrible.
That was a good moment. That was a good moment. What do we do when we all agree on something? Now, this has never happened before on a live of mine. I actually don't know what to do right now.
High fives. High fives.
I do have an ability to have my mind changed and learn, so, I can admit when I'm wrong, or, I have a lack of knowledge on a subject. So, I definitely have a lack of knowledge here. So, I don't have to always be right or win a debate. I can say, hey, I don't know enough. Or, hey, I'm not smart enough here. So, that's definitely the case. Athena knows a lot more. Anthony has a lot more firsthand knowledge, and Koenig definitely has a lot more knowledge on stats. And RTP, you're just amazing. So
I just have a good attitude. That's all.
Yeah. Now, do I still?
I also wanted to address.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So I still have some beliefs about things that. And questions about how we handle the situation, that being what it is, what it is, and how we handle things and how people are conducting their behavior in America, particularly. Things like I've seen people, stomp on American flags, in protests, which I'm against. I hate to see that. It's horrible.
I wanted to address the evacuation aspect that you brought forward, right? So all human rights organizations globally have condemned that move to ask over 1 million people to evacuate within 24 hours. Because what are you going to do with people with disabilities, people who are children, older people, people who might be in hospitals, who might be in comas, who might be stuck to some machines? I don't know. You're giving them 24 hours to move completely. Over 1 million people. I moved at the beginning of this year. I'm one person. It took me like a whole week to move everything, to pack everything up. But you're telling over 1 million people that they would need to move within 24 hours. That is also collective punishment when you're cutting off supplies like water and electricity to a whole population, punishing them for the actions of what Hamas did, a minority. That is also collective punishment. And all of these things are actually war crimes according to international law. And the issue that I have here is that people are criticizing Hamas for attacking Israeli citizens for the actions of the Israeli state. But then as a response to that condemnation, Israel is doing the same thing in that it's holding Palestinian children and Palestinian people accountable for the actions of Hamas, which again, let me clarify, 50% of the population wasn't even alive when Hamas was being voted in. When you have 50% of the population who are minors, and you have about 40%, I think, who are under the age of 15. They weren't even there when Hamas was being voted in. Yet you are now cutting off their electricity, cutting off their water. They're being bombed left and right. They're dying left and right. Over 1,500 of the people who died were Palestinian children under the age of 15. They're seeing they're living in misery. Do you know what this does? It makes them more susceptible to becoming radicalized. This is literally making Hamas's job easier, militant groups easier, because when they're seeing that the cause of their pain and trauma is the Israeli state actually actively violating human rights and unaliving them, what are they going to do? They're going to get radicalized, because now they're going to despise the Israeli state that is causing them all of this pain and trauma, and has been causing them this pain and trauma for the past couple of decades. So you're actually helping Hamas.
No, I saw this situation more as and maybe this will be helpful insight onto folks, a lot of people's reactions to this, and understanding some of the more knee-jerk reactions to this is seeing something like the 7th that happened. That is horrible. And just knowing a surface level bit of detail on it, and not knowing all the higher overview level information, not knowing all of that that lengthy history, and just taking it at face value and saying what everyone is saying is Hamas is horrible people. People get hung up, trying to explain the origins of Hamas or say, okay, it came with that, and it gets confusing, and then it gets lost in the sauce a little bit. For some folks like me, thinking people are defending Hamas, and because it's and that's what I was frustrated with. I was seeing other people maybe misconvey the point you were making, and maybe they were conveying that point in a very poor light, that this was justified. These were justified actions rather than I don't want to say understandable, but it was a chain reaction. It was something that you could see as a reaction. So it's been very helpful for me to talk about this with all of you tonight. I have learned a lot. I will go ahead and let the pros continue onward with your discussion because you are the pros on the topic and not myself.
Well, I'm gonna shut it down, but I wanted to give everybody an opportunity for a last word if we wanted to do that. I gotta get up and do this again in the morning. Let's go, Anthony, and then Whisper, and then Andy, and then we'll save the best for last.
Well, as always, I have enjoyed being the root cause of a particular person getting banned because, I am 3 for 3. That is a total joke, and people need to understand that I am a particular person's bad luck charm. Thank you all very much for allowing this to happen, for having this conversation, for sharing your thoughts, your ideas. Athena, I'm so super stoked to have met you here on TikTok after listening to you all this time. I feel like a fanboy and need an autograph, although that's probably a bit creepy, but what the fuck, I'm an old fat hippie, so I guess just looking at me is creepy enough. But I truly appreciate everything that you brought.
I appreciate you, but don't say those things about yourself. Be kinder. Everybody should be kinder to themselves, and I appreciate you.
I love you for saying that because I swear to you, as soon as I said it, I heard my mom's voice in my mind going, don't do that. That's not good. Sometimes I get so sad that I do that kind of humor because it's the only way I can get through things, and I'm very sad right now because I have friends who got called back to the IDF and they're conflicted and I'm conflicted, and it's evenings like this that make me appreciate meeting all of you and honored to be here. And I will shut up because if I don't know if you've noticed, but Italian Jews can fucking talk forever. So thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Anthony. What is your name right now? Coning? Whatever.
Shut up.
Whatever your 85th account that didn't get banned today. Yeah, go ahead.
You know what? Call me Daddy. How about that?
Yeah, you wish.
It was a really great talk tonight. It's one of those things. I've been studying this for 21 years. I've been following this like 21 years to the day. And it's a conflict that is not going to end in a way that's likable for anyone, and it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that we've gotten to the scales of the scales have tipped so far. I'm glad Athena was here to kind of put my points out there in a much different way. It's really easy for me to just instantly condemn the idea of taking sides in this conflict, and I do so quite passionately. Just because we're not taking sides for people, we're taking sides for ideas that are both rooted in very, very, very evil and quite frankly wrong ideologies. And so the conflict here is not going to be easy to watch. It's not going to be easy to see continue, and it is going to continue. And for those of you that are pro one side or the other, I encourage you to look at a map. It's a really simple exercise that you could do. Show me Palestine on a map. Google it, find it, show me where it is, and you can understand a lot more of the conflict. Look at 1948. Look at where the lines were drawn. Look at what state was declared and look at what state was not declared. Look at the actions that happened in the 6-Day War in 1967. Look at 2005. look at what's actually happening there. Look at the shrinking of, look at the continued occupation of Israel into Palestinian territory. Look at that. It paints a very different picture than just simply saying, go in and kill Hamas. Like Athena said, Hamas is not the Palestinian people. Hamas is not the West Bank. Hamas is not the Gaza Strip. Those are children. That's all I got to say on it.
Yeah. I did want to hop in and clarify, in case I had given an impression otherwise to anyone when I was listening. I am 100% never advocating for any kind of ethnic cleansing, apartheid. Definitely never any way, shape, or form harm in any way to a minor. What I was referencing was sometimes the ugliness of military war, from talking to, parents who've been in, conflicts like Vietnam, and how that can ultimately get very, very troublesome. So it was more like the darkness of those types of conflicts and those difficult choices that can sometimes be forced upon, some of our best heroes. So I didn't want to give the impression that a lot of what I talked about I took willy-nilly. I don't. And if anyone listening, trust any of these people 100 times more than me. They know 100 times more than me.
Are you open to changing your name?
Well, I'm actually planning to tomorrow. I just haven't been able to stick you with it for 7 days. I've got
That's true. That's true. I just wanted a bunch of people were asking in the comments, so I just want to give you an opportunity to address that if you didn't see it.
Well, I mean, not necessarily. I mean, still, F Hamas. I don't think, and that's really a point. Anybody really is. I don't think I've run across anybody who's actually pro Hamas. Is anyone pro Hamas? At this point,
you'll find them. They're there. They're on TikTok.
Yeah, there's one in Good Trouble's live earlier today.
Wow. But yeah, I still feel good about the username choice, because anybody who could commit the atrocities of October the 7th, which are still atrocities, that was still a good bet on a username. I just didn't understand at all any of the context.
So yeah, it's kind of like when it does though feel like you're taking a side there. Like it's fine to say like, this is why I chose this username. I disagree with this behavior, but it does come off. It does just come off as like fuck Hamas, but like Israel's fine. And I think that's how you entered this live today. Is that it's kind of where you were at, right?
Yes. So yeah, I was totally in defense of Israel. I'm not. I've learned a lot more about the context and know that I need to do a lot more research to prove my own stats, to prove my own contextual understanding. A lot of the things I already knew and have heard, I got more refined information on. I got a lot more personal information out of Anthony, and more of a connection out of that. As far as a testimonial, and more of a one-on-one conversation that helped me connect to the story of this a lot more and bring a lot more reality to it. There's a difference between listening to a live or, reading some information or an article and actually having a conversation with someone directly involved in it. So it helps make it more tangible and real. So, yeah.
All right. I appreciate it. Thank you. Athena?
Yeah, so I think like a lot of conversations and debates and discussions around this conflict are complicated because they can be plagued with anti-Semitism, they can be plagued with Islamophobia and Arab phobia as well. And I think that is what makes these discussions more complex. But taking a side on injustice, I think, is not a complex, or you cannot show neutrality when you are seeing injustices happening. I think there's a fundamental dehumanization of Palestinian people, regardless of if they live in Gaza or West Bank, or also in Israel. When we look at the stats out of Israel, half of Arab Israeli households live below the poverty line, against 1/5 of Israeli households. That is according to the Euro-Mediterranean Human Rights Network. The unemployment rate for Israeli Arab men is twice that of Jewish men, while the rate of Arab Israeli women is 3 times higher than for Jewish women. Arab Israeli towns also receive much less public funding for development than Jewish municipalities, and planning permissions are also rarely granted. The Israeli Supreme Court itself recognized that Israeli Arabs are not treated equally and they're discriminated against within Israeli society. So we are seeing a fundamental dehumanization of Palestinian people, regardless of if they live in Israel or if they live in wherever, West Bank or Gaza, whether they're Muslims, whether they're atheists, whether they are Palestinian Jewish people, whether they are Christians as well. There is a fundamental dehumanization happening to the point where Palestinian people talking about actual historical facts are being silenced. Like Adiana Shibli, who in her book Minor Detail, which has been boycotted all over Europe because she simply, in her book, mentioned the actual true case of a 1948 atrocity that happened to a 16 or young Bedouin girl who was raped by 20 IDF soldiers, who was unalived and then buried in the Negev desert, and her unaliving was covered up until the early 2000s. Just because Adiana Shibli decided to incorporate that actual true story of a Bedouin girl in her book Minor Detail, she was accused of being anti-Semitic, and she was boycotted all over Europe as well. And then you have the Tantura massacre, which there was a recent Israeli documentary made by an Israeli director talking about the Israeli massacre of the seaside village of Tantura and the building of 2 beach resorts on that village. How that has also been dismissed. There have been countless atrocities that have not been discussed, that have not been acknowledged, that have not been recognized and dismissed because of the dehumanization of Palestinian people, and because people think Palestinian people just deserve it and they should just shut up and keep quiet and continue being oppressed. I think that is what's missing from all of these conversations, the humanizing of Palestinian people. And the reason as to why I brought up that one Bedouin girl is because sometimes one death is considered an atrocity, but 1,000 are just considered a statistic. And if we focus on the individual deaths of all these people, we will realize how atrocious this disaster has been for over 70 years, and nobody has bothered even talking about it. But thank you for letting me on your live, RTP. As per usual, I appreciate you. I'm going to drop down now, but thank you for giving me the space to have this conversation. And Anthony, I appreciate you, by the way. Just wanted to say that. I'm going to drop now.
You're always welcome. I'm gonna wrap it up. It's late for me. I appreciate everybody for coming by. This wasn't even planned. It was a failed. We were supposed to have a YouTube live and it didn't work out, and this turned out beautiful. So Anthony, whatever your name is, Koning, and Andy, I appreciate the discussion. I'll see everybody else tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Monday through Friday. We're always here. And
you better not end this without saying my name.
And Whisper. Whisper. When he gets unbanned, you guys check him out. He'll be following me, I think, most days after at 1 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. He'll be following me. So, anyways, Anthony, love you, brother. Jake, love you, brother. Andy, I wouldn't say I love you because I don't know you yet, but I'm going to say it anyways. I love you. See you guys. See you in the morning.